So today's report is of 25i-NBOMe at a dose of 1000 micrograms or 1 milligram. I found it on Erowid by a user called Picasido, I think that is. I don't know, it's on screen now along with some more details. I've always had a weird interest in this substance as it gets a bad name after being commonly sold under the guise that it's LSD, which can often lead to negative experiences, or overdose, which can easily result in death, unfortunately. However, when it's taken knowing that it is in fact 25i, it can lead to some interesting reports, especially when making comparisons to real LSD. But anyway, without wasting any more time, we'll get into it. Before I start, I'm not a heavy drug user. Aside from bud, alcohol and nitrous oxide, I only started experimenting a few months ago. Since then, I've found that psychedelics are much more enjoyable and have less of a come down than others I've tried, MDMA, KET, CTMP. So far, I have tripped with 2CB and 25i, due to real LSD being impossible to find, even at raves. 25i and 2CB are becoming more common in Hertfordshire and Essex, and it appears to be causing a resurgence of the psychedelic culture and a move away from stims or depressants. I've found that I naturally have a tolerance for drugs. Anything below a threshold dose does nothing to me, whereas only a little above that threshold is already enough. In the past, I took half a tab and didn't feel any positives, but only some gurning and twitches. For me, 1000 micrograms is enough for a 4-hour trip and a further 4 hours feeling trippy. When I doubled the dosage, I tripped for about 6 hours, but felt weird for another 10 hours with a large body load. However, other people I know can cruise quite happily with 500 micrograms. The date of my trip was Thursday the 6th of March 2014, and my personal preference with the psychedelics is to take them in bed with the lights off, listening to a mix of classic rock, Dire Straits, Queen, Guns N' Roses, Beatles, and psytrance. The times I'm putting here are as accurate as possible, as the drug skews time perception. I tripped alone, however a friend of mine dropped a tab and we spoke via Snapchat for the duration of our trip. I take no prescription drugs at all, and avoid even paracetamol when it's not needed. I was not under the influence of any other drugs, and I'd eaten 2 hours before. I found it useful to keep a bottle of water by my bed to rehydrate during the trip. 9:58 PM. Dropped the tab. Method of administration was putting the tab under my lip and sucking on it, without swallowing saliva or the tab for half an hour. Tab has a metallic taste, consistent with the NBOMe family, similar to the taste of an iron key if you ever put one of those in your mouth as a kid. 10:10. Starting to feel a tenseness in my jaw, and my legs have small twitches. Small amount of nausea, nothing unbearable. Slight flushes of cold and warmth travelling up and down my body from my feet to my head. 10:18. 20 minutes in, I'm starting to notice enhanced colours and the screen of my iPhone is shimmering and flashing as I type. Currently quite chilled out listening to Kygo and messaging friends. 10:20. Time perception is affected. Time seems to be passing very slowly, and my nausea is far more pronounced while the gurning is getting hard to control. Slightly uncomfortable, but excited for the imminent come up. 10:23. Nausea is fading as I have warm flushes. 10:30. I swallow the tab and notice an intense numbness in my mouth. I wash down the taste with some water, which tastes weird in itself somehow. 10:40. A feeling of euphoria takes over my entire body, and I know that I've started the trip. 40 minutes after dropping the N-bomb. I've started playing classic rock, and while listening to Telegraph Road, I can visualise an entire scene in my head corresponding with the lyrics. I'm noticing things in the song that I never did before. 11. I'm feeling great, but I've noticed that the only way to hallucinate and feel the effects of the drug properly is to tense my jaw. Conscious relaxation stops me from tripping and feels unnatural, so I ignore it. 11:30. I feel quite numb and disorientated body-wise, but mentally I've never been better. But in this time I had watched a porno, and the finish creates an unworldly whole-body rush which is better than any other thing I've felt before. Midnight. I have no concept of time now. Time seems to stop and jump at its own will. This is not a problem for me, but I'm slightly worried that someone could walk in and I wouldn't even know or remember. I have no recollection of the times when it seemed to jump. 12:30 AM. I hit my first peak and spend what felt like half an hour, but according to my trip log was about 10 minutes, completely blown away by my psytrance playlist. 1 AM. 3 hours from dropping the N-bomb. I'm listening to the entirety of Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. I'm very introspective, reviewing my thoughts and actions and the way I connect with society. A theme which seemed important to me at the time, was how we don't actually know what is real or not, and how the acid world is a detached reality from the one we normally live in. It's a world in which anything is possible, and you can control it with the volume dial on your music player. It's a world in which your senses can mix, and made me realise how much we rely on our primary sense, vision, when we could use our others so much better. 120. The visual hallucinations are not as vivid as described by my LSD taking friends, and not as colourful as 2CB. It feels more like I'm having intense mind-blowing daydreams than seeing weird geometric patterns. However, I'm seeing changes that together with the music and straight lines become wavy, my arms look weird and my depth perception is affected. My sense of up and down is strangely non-existent, which creates a wonderful feeling of weightlessness. 3 AM. 5 hours after dropping, I'm feeling much less trippy, and starting to feel quite tired, mostly because it's 3 in the morning than because of the drug. However, I cannot sleep. I'm listening to chill music, but can revisit my high by playing psytrance and fast-paced music. 3:30. Light headache, considering taking a Tizalam to sleep, but decide against it, so I allow myself to become drowsy and turn down the music, playing some ambient space trance. I think I fell asleep around 4:30, 6 hours and a half after taking the 25i. I had to get up at 6:30 and woke up as if I'd been up all night, which I had, but not on a downer as if from MDMA. My pupils were still dilated but improving. I didn't have much of an appetite and felt a bit out of touch, as if in the Beatles' A Day in the Life. Overall, the trip was a great experience. I'm a very music orientated person. You will rarely find me not listening to music, and I find it explains my life in ways that words can't. This may just be me, but I found that the 25i actually caused auditory hallucinations more so than visual. Music was insane, but the visuals were lacking if anything. 25i is definitely amazing for auditory appreciation, but I'm not sure how great it is for weird geometric trips like a music visualizer. This is probably the 5th or 6th time I've taken it, and will continue to dose 25i with regular intervals of 2 weeks to avoid tolerance. Taking a hit of NOS or having a couple of tokes or a bong hit while tripping is an amazing boost, and combining it with MDMA can be overpowering, but great in its own way, as you get the trip of the 25i and the love from the Mandy. This is my first experience report, and I hope it's helpful to anyone planning on taking 25i-NBOMe.